I'm Jarlath Gregory, and I'm going to be reading from my novel What Love Looks Like, which was published in 2021 by O'Brien Press. So I'm going to read from chapter 5, which is about one third of the way into the story. So far, we've met Ben, who's the main character and the narrator, and this is about him going out with his friends on a night out in Pantybar. Drag. Gay bars are different at night. It's as if they're in drag during daylight hours, wearing their drabbest gear in case they scare the locals on their way to the offices or their shops. But as soon as the sun has gone to sleep and the moon appears in the evening sky, the sequins begin to shimmer. The mirror ball throws glitter through your hair. The leather gleams on sleek, plump cushions. The neon spritzes into life, casting a flattering filter across every face that floats by, and even the darkest corners of the dingiest bars look kind of nice. Drag works both ways. Usually, you're ordinary on the outside, and you use drag to express your inner diva, like a superhero doing a quick change in an alleyway. The costume reveals the true nature of your identity, telling the whole world there's something special underneath your spandex. Okay, so drag queens don't have superpowers, but they do cheer up a party, dressed up to the nines in clothes their sisters wouldn't be seen dead in, and slathered in enough makeup to put a clown to shame. I have this theory that most people use drag the other way. They dress down to pretend they're ordinary, but it's nice to step out of the ordinary sometimes. So there we were, a couple of days later, having a few drinks in Pantybar and talking rubbish. The one thing I don't want to talk about, Chelsea said, is the leaving cert. Anything but exams, please. I'm here to pretend they aren't happening. That bad, I said sympathetically. If you need any more notes, just ask. Someone, Chelsea said, please change the subject. Quick. Good, Soda said. Talking about the leaving cert gives me horrible flashbacks. Looking Asian and speaking Irish was too much for some people's tiny minds. At this point, Chelsea said, I'm happy to listen to Soda talk about himself all night. Good, because I've got some things to say, Soda continued, rifling through Chelsea's bag. I'm sick to death of default gay. I mean, I went to the cinema today on my own because you two were being boring. I was working, I said, and Chelsea had an exam that might determine her entire future. Sorry, I added, as Chelsea almost choked on her beer. I mean, Soda loves giving out to us when we don't act like the supporting characters in his own personal soap opera. You can't let him away with it. It's what people do when they're trying to pass as adults in a modern society, I continued. How else are we going to get jobs and settle down and get married and adopt kids and become so normal we're invisible? Chelsea burped loudly. Soda put down Chelsea's bag. When did you get so political? I swear, ever since the marriage referendum, everyone thinks they ought to be Minister for Gay. Anyway, shut up. I went to the cinema today, eating my feelings in overpriced confectionery, and every single film was about some boring middle-class white guy with boring middle-class white guy problems. Soda paused for dramatic effect, sipping his cocktail with his pinky finger raised. Even the action flicks were about default guy trying to kill the baddies and get his girlfriend back. When did everyone agree to care about default guy? No wonder everything is so mediocre. We're all pretending that straight white male angst is a universal experience, but that's okay, because as long as he's able-bodied and educated, he can beat the system, man. You want political? Give me a film about a Gaysian drag queen who's going on stage in 5 minutes flat and can't find her bloody eyeliner. Chelsea, do you actually own any makeup? Even some black goth lipstick would do right now. Have you ever seen me in makeup? No, but sometimes I fantasize about contouring your cheekbones. You know, a little bit of makeup doesn't hurt. Even just a smidge to cover up your black eye. You mightn't get mistaken for a lesbian half as much. Even this, Soda said, waving Chelsea's leather messenger bag around, is less a handbag and more a man bag. I want to take you shopping. I'm a cliche. I don't even care. There is precisely no makeup in my bag. There never has been. I'm going to the bathroom, and thanks to nature, I'll have to queue for a cubicle instead of being able to pee standing up. With any luck, I'll miss you lip syncing to Taylor Swift. Break a leg, and if you can't break a leg, break your neck. Chelsea stomped off in a huff, almost knocking over our table with her ample bosom. She knows how to make an exit, Soda said enviously. She's a loss to the stage. We were sitting close to the bar, where a lipstick lesbian was Instagramming what looked like a designer gin and tonic, complete with berries and foliage. My kind of gal, Soda said, hopping off his seat. I bet she can lend me some eyeliner. As Soda went to catch some makeup, I looked around the bar, seeing who'd come along for the show, and vaguely checking out the talent. There were rugby gays, bears and androgynous women with blue manga hair. There were office workers in their work clothes, a polished straight couple who looked like they might have read about Panty Bar in the Irish Times, and gangs of students from their various universities. None of the guys were as handsome as Peter, but I knew he'd hate Soda's drag act, so I hadn't asked him to come out tonight. For some reason, I'd been thinking a lot about normality and how we spend so much time chasing this one version of reality we're all meant to buy into. Of course, I think it's great that gay couples can get married. There's no good reason why gay couples shouldn't get married, especially if it pisses off people like Aaron McNally. In generations to come, it's going to be embarrassing to admit I was born in a time and place where gay couples weren't allowed to be as ordinary as everyone else. My grandkids will look up at me with big, surprised eyes, full of pity, and say, "Tell us what it was like before people were cool, Grandad."